Hello and welcome to my channel about Unity development. Today I'm going to do an introduction on the new Unity input system. Most of you would know that Unity have been developing a new input system for a while and it's finally here. The new system should allow you to easily implement control on your game, especially when you want to support multiple types of control or gamepad. To get started with the new input system, go to Window, Package Manager, and on the Package Manager window, look for Input System. Click on Install at the bottom right of the window. During the installation, Unity will tell you if we replace with the old system and require a restart of the editor. Continue to do so after restarting editor, everything will be good to go. I will create a standard 3D cube just to representing our character in the scene. We need to create an input action asset. Input action asset stores all the action maps, action, and binding into one single file. To create it, right-click on the assets folder and click on Input Action at the bottom. And then we will rename the asset as My Character Action. Next, double-click it, and Unity will open a new window to allow you to modify the asset, like this. There are 3 columns in this window. We have Action Maps, Action, and Properties. Now let me describe my understanding of what action maps and actions by bringing up a popular game, GTA 5. GTA 5 allows you to have different control when you are in different situations. For example, when you are on foot, you have the ability to move around and perform certain action. And when you are driving a car, you can accelerate and brake. And finally, when you are swimming, you can swim around and dive into water. To recreate this in Unity, I will set up 3 different action maps. One is on foot, one for driving, and one for swimming. In each action maps, I will create different actions. And finally, I will create bindings which assign buttons to perform those actions. So now back to Unity. Let's create a new action map called Standard. And to do this, I click on the plus icon here, and I will name it as Standard. Then click on the action on the right, and go to Property and select Value from Action Type Properties, and I will change the control type to Vector 2. Now click on the plus icon to create a new binding. Remember to select Add to the Vector Composite. I'm going to name it as WASD as I'm going to use those keys to move around. Let's delete the empty binding in here by right clicking and delete. And now we can assign button to each of the direction of the movement. Select Up and go to Properties column. We select Path Properties. This will show all the possible buttons that Unity can support, and in this case, we're going to look for keyboard and find the W key. Alternatively, you can just type in the search bar and look for the button that you want. Next to the search bar, there is a Listen button. Press this, Unity will listen to the next button pressed on the system, and will give you the correct one. At last, don't forget to rename the action as Move. I'm going to create one more action and call it Action, and this time I'm going to leave the action type as button in the properties. And under binding, I'm going to assign the primary key on the path property field. There is an option to let you auto-save the changes you have made on the asset, or you can press save manually to save the changes. In this case, I will press save asset in here. Select the new input action asset. On the inspector there is an option called Generate C# class. This will generate a script that you can use in your own script to implement the control. Now let's create a script for the character control. I call it Character Control. Double click it to launch Visual Studio and we can start scripting. We need the new Unity input system namespace on the top. Then remove the start method, and instead I will use the onEnable method. But first, we need to create a variable using the class that Unity generated for me from the input asset. In our case, it is my character action. Inside the onEnables method, I will create a new reference of my character action class. Next, I will type my character action dot standard, which is the action map that I created, and then dot move, which is also the action that I created that associated with the standard map. And then type dot performed. This means when it's being performed, it will do the following things. I'm going to use the lambda expression in here. and I need to create a vector2 variable to store the value in the expression. We also need to tell the script what to do after player is finished with the input. So the next line, I will create almost the same thing on the top, but this time I'll use cancel instead of performed. I will need Visual Studio to implement the function for me, just to show you there are two different ways to write this. In the update function, I will use transform.translate to move my character using the vector2 variable and give it a speed of 4. For example, I'm just going to quickly assign this script to my character game object in case I forget it later. And inside the onEnable method, I will to enable the control by using .enable, and I'm going to create onDisable function and disable the control inside this function just to make it consistent. So now when I run the editor, I can control my cube by using the WASD key. This is one way to implement control using the new input system. There is another way to achieve the same result and more. Unity has provided a component with the new input system and called player input. On the player input, you can either create a new input action asset or use the one we just created. Once you assign to the field, you can define the default action map. Change the behavior to invoke Unity event and expand the event by clicking the arrow. There will be a standard field which what we created as the name as our action maps. And expand this, we'll see the two actions that we have created. So going back to the script, I will comment out all the things that we don't need, and we change this function into public and rename it as move. This is everything we need to do on this script for now. Go back to the editor and assign the move function into the Unity move event under the player input component. And now we have the same result as we had before. We will implement the action that we previously created in the input action asset. I'm going to create a public function and print out a string when this action is being performed. Same as before, I will assign this function into my action event on the inspector. Run the editor, and on my editor, my primary button is my left mouse click. So when I left click my mouse, the string will appear on my console window. Let's look into how to change the action map at runtime. So for example, we can have different control when driving a car. We will create a new action map on the input action asset that we created. I'm going to call it driving. Same as before, I will name the action as move, and this time instead of using the WASD key, I will use the arrow key on the keyboard. Don't forget to save the asset. Check the player input component. Now we have both standard and driving map to select. Stick with the standard for now. I'm going to create a new UI button, which I will need it to switch to driving when I press on this button. One thing to note is that with the new input system, the default standalone input module will ask you to upgrade to the new input system. Just go ahead and click replace. Once I have the button set up and ready, I will go back to the script and create a function for switching to the driving map. I will also need a reference of a player input component, which I will create one in the top. Last, use switch current action map and put the driving into the bracket. Make sure to assign this function to the button, assign the player input field, and assign the move function under the new move event in the driving section in the player input component. Run to editor. Same as before, I can control my cube using my WASD key. And as soon as I click on the button to switch to driving, I no longer can control it with my WASD key, and instead I can use my arrow key on my keyboard to control it. This is how you switch to a different action map at runtime. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe my channel and hit the like button on this video. I hope I can see you soon. Goodbye.